Good morning, Nassau Street Church. How are you guys doing this morning? Well, it seems like in these continuing days, and rightly so, that we just can't turn on the news without hearing the daily COVID updates these days, and the hopes and the advances in the search for a vaccine, and the fallout that we continue to face from this pandemic. We're finding ourselves living for almost 9 months now in this public health crisis. I found myself thinking about that as I reflected again on the question that we looked at this past Sunday. Aren't we better off without religion? Or aren't we better off without Christianity? Well, from a public health crisis, if you tuned in on Sunday, you heard the stats that say we might not be. And the stats that indicate that those who find themselves in church or in a service of some kind once a week are generally more optimistic, dealing with less anxiety and less depression than others, less likely to divorce, less likely to deal with issues of addictions. Along with this, the studies tell us that those who find themselves in a worship service once a week give 3.5% more to charities, they volunteer more, and they're half as less likely to be involved in domestic violence. As I hear those stats, I find myself thinking, they sound so much of what I hear that will better our societies, our province, our society, if we just didn't have those kind of stats. So while secularization has put forth the idea and the notion that the world would be a better place without religion, Christianity in this case, the stats seem to indicate that that's not true. Found it interesting how Rebecca McLaughlin, in asking Francis Collins, the director of the National Institute of Health in the U.S., if it would be right in light of this to state that secularization is a public health crisis. To that question, Collins answered, yes. So thinking in that vein, it's like we have these two public health crises that are colliding at the moment. We have COVID wreaking havoc in our lives regarding our health and the devastation that we're seeing. And we have a growing number of people dealing with anxiety and depression, and people less optimistic and probably less thankful as secularization has made its way into our culture, giving many very little hope in the chaotic times that we live in. Well, if you did join us on Sunday, you heard Andy greet us with the words from 1 Peter chapter 1, where Peter writes these words, knowing, church, that you were ransomed from the futile ways, inherited from your forefathers, not with perishable things such as silver or gold, but with the precious blood of Christ, like that of a lamb without blemish or spot. This idea that we've been born into a living hope through Jesus Christ. This hope has, and this reality, as Andy mentioned, that has brought so much change to many people, and a change, we might add, for good. Finding hope not in the public health crisis of secularization, but in the precious blood of Jesus, giving them hope and a foundation to walk through the public health crisis that is COVID-19. NSC, as we think about that this morning, I want to urge you in two ways. Peter tells us on more than one occasion in this book that we've been chosen by God. We've got to ask, does that just grip you? I encourage you, dwell on that incredible truth once again, that we've been chosen by God. And secondly, for those that have not come to know this wonderful reality, be in prayer for them, that God would ransom them from the ways that seem meaningless and hollow, and bring them into a living hope, a hope that would allow them to navigate with greater strength the trying times that we find ourselves in. I encourage you, you might even want to join into the Zoom prayer meeting for the advance of the gospel this Sunday as we continue to hold up folks before God that they would come to know this truth. The incredible reality that we've been ransomed from our futile ways, from meaningless thinking, through the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Dwell on that reality this morning, church. Love you, church, and continue to pray for and miss you through these times. We'll see you soon.